Not very good news coming in from Kedarnath, where news of a glacier chunk breaking near the Raini village in Joshimath.
And over 150 people are still missing.
Massive flash flood has been reported in India's Uttarakhand state.
With more than 30 confirmed deaths and 100 plus people missing, a massive flood on February 7 in the Chamoli district of Uttarakhand turned catastrophic in a flash and sent all the Himalayan regions into a tizzy. But in Jammu and Kashmir, the tragedy has raised more serious alarm bells. Why? Let's find out in this episode of KO Explained. Firstly, we need to take a look at the key factors of the Uttarakhand disaster and then paint a relative picture in J&K to see if the same factors that triggered crisis exist in the UT. If yes, can they cause an equal damage or more? The deluge was an outcome of a glacial burst, which experts are linking to the receding glaciers. Now, when we speak about glaciers, Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh have approximately 12,000 glaciers, which, as per a study, are receding at a significant rate. In fact, Kashmir's largest glacier, the Kolahai Glacier, which is a water source to Jhelum, has lost almost 23% of its area since 1962.
We have a lot of glaciers in Chenab and some of the very biggest glaciers in Zanskar, something like Drangdrung, which goes up to a length of 23 kilometers.
Since the melting of glaciers is an outcome of climate change, the disaster vulnerability increases even more. Here is the reason why.
Over the last 1 century, in case of Kashmir, we have experienced 0.9 degrees centigrade rise in temperature just in the last 3 decades or 4 decades, which is very alarming.
Prompted by the 2013 floods in Uttarakhand, India's top court had put a moratorium on any new hydropower dams in the state. The reason being the risk that these ecologically sensitive regions bear due to the hydropower projects, which government considers significant to decarbonize nation's electricity generation. And in Jammu and Kashmir, which has a potential of more than 20,000 megawatts of hydropower generation, these projects are fast-tracked, putting a pressure on resources, climate and the people.
मसला है कि इतने ज़्यादा प्रोजेक्ट बनाने के लिए आपको पता है कि कितने हमारे पेड़ काटने पड़ते हैं, कितने जंगल काटने पड़ते हैं, कितने पहाड़ों को ब्लास्ट करना पड़ता है और इन्हीं चीज़ों की वजह से जो है एनवायरमेंटल डिज़ास्टर होते हैं, क्लाइमेट चेंज होता है और ऐसी जो क्या बोलते हैं हमारे जो उत्तराखंड में जो यहाँ पे डिज़ास्टर हुआ उस तरीके के डिज़ास्टर यहाँ भी हो सकते हैं। 2.5 लाख पेड़ कटने हैं उज के प्रोजेक्ट के लिए। क्या हम 2.5 लाख पेड़ों को कंपनसेट कर सकते हैं?
If you have a very big hydroelectric power project, that means you are damming a lot of water. And if you are damming more water, once an avalanche hits that hydropower project, the reservoir of that hydropower project, so obviously the damage could be very severe. Maybe Uttarakhand or Chamoli is peanuts in comparison to what can translate if this kind of an event hits some hydroelectric power project in Chenab or Jhelum or some other area of Zanskar, for example.
Another point of concern is the habitations near or around the glaciers. Example, the total population of Uttarakhand's Raini village, the nearest village to the disaster site, is approximately 246. Kashmir's Kolahai Glacier, on the other hand, is situated 35 kilometers upstream Pahalgam, at the head of the West Lidar Valley and owing to the south-facing slopes and high vertical gradient. It is naturally vulnerable to grave consequences. The nearest settlement area of Pahalgam has a larger population of approximately 5,922 when compared to Uttarakhand's Raini village, projecting larger damage and loss. The same court that had imposed a moratorium on any new hydroelectrical power projects in Uttarakhand had also asked the Union Ministry of Environment and Forest to set up an Environmental Impact Assessment Committee. An EIA basically evaluates the likely environmental costs of development projects by taking into consideration the socio-economic, cultural and human health impacts.
What we have seen is, if you look at environmental impact assessment of any construction activity or any infrastructure development activity, not only in Kashmir but across the Hindu Kush Indian Himalayan region, so there are pitfalls and loopholes in that EIA process. So, and I feel like it is not a very robust environmental impact assessment process.
खाली जो है सांबा अमरगढ़ ट्रांसमिशन लाइन के लिए 60,000 पेड़ों को काटना पड़ा यहाँ पे। तो ये जो हमारी एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट कमिटीज़ बनती है, अगर ये काम सही तरीके से करेंगे, मुझे लगता है कि इतना एनवायरमेंटल डिजास्टर नहीं होगा यहाँ पे।
So the question arises, can we avoid power projects and settlements around it to avert loss or find alternatives? Experts and activists are giving 3 ways: identifying hotspots, follow sustainable development goals, and exploring solar power.
I will not say we should avoid power projects, but at the same time I will not say that we have to avoid habitations. But what we need to do, government needs to do, is identify such potential hotspots which are there in Chamoli. How many such hotspots are located, for example, across Hindu Kush Himalaya? Once we have exact information of where these hotspots are located, it is very prudent and very intelligent to not construct a hydropower project in the downstream catchments of such hotspots.
छोटे प्रोजेक्ट से भी तबाही होती है, बड़े प्रोजेक्ट से भी तबाही होती है। अब लोग बोलेंगे भाई इसका अल्टरनेटिव है क्या? अल्टरनेटिव हमारे पास बहुत से हैं। सबसे बड़ा अल्टरनेटिव हमारे पास है सोलर पावर। अगर हम सोलर पावर को एक्सप्लोर करें, उसके अलावा जो ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग हमारे पास जो हाइड्रो पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, अगर उसकी बिजली हमें पूरी तरीके से हमें मिली, देखिए यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, एनएचपीसी बिजली पैदा कर रहे हैं, वो जा रही है वहाँ से बाहर। अगर वो सब प्रोजेक्ट्स हमारी जो स्टेट को वापस मिले, यूटी को वापस मिले, मुझे लगता है कि हमको फिर आगे से बिजली लाने की ज़रूरत नहीं, ना हमको नए प्रोजेक्ट बनाने की ज़रूरत है।
If you follow these mantras of sustainable development goals, obviously you will be avoiding a lot of damage to the ecology, to the environment, to the people and to the infrastructure. But if you do not care about it, so obviously there will be these disasters which will be very frequent and striking very often in the downstream areas of Himalayas.
At the end, if a glacial outbreak in Uttarakhand can lead to a disaster of that scale, then looking at the present circumstances, Kashmir should brace itself.